ABC 12 News at 6.
Our top story tonight, no water and no heat at Sunset Village Apartments in Flint. Really a heartbreaking situation considering just how cold it's been out there.
And how cold it's going to be. The housing complex is located off of Bradley Avenue and Sunset Drive. Mayor Sheldon Neely says it's unlivable and the city is investigating the property's future. ABC 12's Ann Perret has been looking into how this happened. She joins us now live from City Hall, and Ann, his office is working to get each tenant into new housing.
Yes, and the exact number of people in need of a new place to live is not clear. Flint's mayor says that it isn't their fault. He blamed what he called a neglectful, absent property owner, who he says actually lives out of this state. Missing, broken, and boarded up windows, piles of trash with no dumpster in sight, unplowed parking lots, and now no heat or water at Flint's Sunset Village Apartments. Mayor Sheldon Neely says the water pipes were either cut or stolen.
This absentee property owner has let them down. And so we're trying to help these families find places for them to go to be safe and out of the elements.
Especially as the COVID-19 pandemic continues and the weather remains below freezing. City Hall is working with United Way and other partners to get the 15 tenants into new housing. It's not clear when the heat and water issues showed up, but Mayor Neely says the city has long had problems with the property owner.
We do know that the maintenance on this particular property has been failing over the last few months, if not a year. We have been contacted by individuals and maintenance individuals alerting us to these problems, and we are now investigating that to whereby if we need to take further action.
Further action, like potentially filing a civil lawsuit against the property owner and taking a closer look at the at least one other property they own in the city.
It's a drain on all of our resources. We've had a lot of personnel engaged in this. Our partners has utilized a lot of resources to be able to try to help these families. And so we're looking at all aspects to be able to recover some of our costs as well as making these families whole.
And I did try to track down the property owner. His latest addresses show that he's either in Florida or in Israel. Now, the property is listed under the name Flint 770 Investment LLC. There's no accurate contact information listed with it. As the investigation continued, I asked what's next for this property. Will it be condemned? Flint's mayor says that there is the opportunity to repair these pipes and then have the building rehabilitated.
And Ann, back to those pipes, the ones that were stolen or damaged, will anyone be held responsible?
Well, the mayor says that a complaint has to be filed with the Flint Police Department. That would have to be filed by either this owner or maybe a manager or somebody who worked in the office. Until then, he says there will not be a criminal investigation. Live in Flint tonight, I'm Ann Perret, ABC 12 News.
All right, Ann, thanks so much. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time tenants have been blindsided by Sunset Village management. Back in 2016, the then property owner had stopped making water payments to the city of Flint, racking up hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Tenants were worried they'd be forced to move out because people can't legally live there when there isn't running water. At that time, the city said the water would not be turned off, and several days later, the management company started making payments again. This is what it looks like at the Richfield Court Apartments in Flint. Broken and boarded up windows and overflowing dumpsters. The complex is located off Richfield and Averill.
We first shared with you yesterday the man who owns these apartments also owns the Sunset Village Apartments. That's the complex the city of Flint is investigating to decide if it'll be condemned. Our Ann Perret spoke with a former tenant at Richfield Court Apartments who's hopeful the city will now look into that complex too.
Sunset Village Apartments is being investigated because they don't have heat, and the city says someone either cut or stole their water pipes, resulting in no water. Now, we first told you yesterday when we showed up to the Richfield Court Apartments, someone there told us they didn't have heat for several days, and it's clear visually that the apartment complex is in the same condition as Sunset Village.
It's not a safe environment. It's nasty.
Alyssa Brewington used to live at Richfield Court Apartments. She's the only person we could find comfortable enough to say something about the conditions. People living there right now appear fearful of speaking up. You can see the dumpsters are overflowing with trash, something Brewington says was an issue long before she moved out. She lived here for just 4 months from June to September 2020. She says she moved out because she didn't feel safe. Twice, Brewington says, her apartment was broken into. She didn't have power after her breaker box sparked, and some of her windows were missing.
I wanted to find somewhere else, but I had no type of funds, big enough for me to find somewhere else.
Brewington says just because she isn't well off doesn't mean she or anyone else who lives there should be subjected to those conditions. We tried to call the office to ask about these issues.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. Your call cannot be completed as dialed.
The number doesn't work.
But I definitely feel as if somebody should step up and help in some way, somehow. I don't know. Maybe fix the apartments up, maybe find somewhere for the people that are in there to stay in the meantime.
I reached out to the mayor's office to see if they could do anything. Coming up tonight at 6, their efforts to track down the owner of both properties and the new unit they've created to keep an eye on rental properties across Flint. I'm Ann Perrette, ABC 12 News.
Yesterday at 5, we told you the owner of Sunset Village Apartments also owns the Lapeer Gardens apartment complex. We have since learned that complex was sold 3 years ago to a different company. The state, however, still lists the owner of Sunset Village as being connected to the complex.
Flint's Mayor Sheldon Neely says they decided to condemn the Sunset Village apartments until the problems are fixed. The private ownership company now has 10 days from yesterday to get to work. Flint's mayor says they had the same trouble we did trying to track them down.
Municipalities such as this can only engage when you have a failure of a property that needs to be condemned. And then we have to go in with our inspectors, and by the letter of the law, we have to engage it that way.
Mayor Neely says they did get in touch with the owner and were told they plan to send someone else to the property soon to see what can be done. With the property being condemned, the mayor says everyone needs to be out of there. They've been working with community partners to get the up to 15 tenants into new safe housing, but he says many are reluctant to move.
We got to make sure that when these people exploit our communities for profit and taking profit away from tenants and not restoring the revenues back into the property themselves to make it a good aesthetic place to look at and a good place to live, we have to be able to hold them accountable.
Which is why he says the city reinstated the rental inspection unit just approved by City Council. Inspectors have been hired, and he says they start next week taking a look at residential and commercial buildings.
They go in and look and see if the place is inhabitable. If there's any things in violation, is there black mold? Is there exposed wires? Are these things acceptable and for families to live in?
The mayor admits these issues did not show up overnight, so I asked if they'd taken notice before. He says the city did ticket the owner for various reasons, but couldn't tell me how many times. In Flint, I'm Ann Perrette, ABC 12 News.
We are continuing to investigate a story we first told you about Tuesday, unlivable conditions at a Flint apartment complex. The city says someone either cut or stole the water pipes at the Sunset Village apartments that left up to 15 tenants without heat or water. The mayor told ABC 12 on Thursday that's two of the reasons why they're condemning the property. New tonight, a spokesperson for the property owner is speaking out. Our Ann Perrette joining us now live to share her conversation with them. And Ann, what is she saying is next for this complex?
It appears that the property owners want to wash their hands of this crumbling apartment complex. A spokesperson for the owner says that they do plan to fix the problems, but they're also speaking with a couple of potential buyers, admitting that it's too difficult to run the place while living out of state. It's official. We caught a City of Flint employee tacking up the notice to the people who live at the Sunset Village apartments. With no heat or running water, the complex is being condemned. They have 10 days to move out. It's not clear exactly when the water pipes were cut or stolen. Regardless, the city says the owners are now on the clock to fumigate, clean, and board up the property.
I'll be meeting with the mayor the first part of next week. The mayor and the city has been really helpful. So we're going to do what we can to make that happen, and maybe in getting people there to get the problems fixed if we can.
Patsy Barkley says she's the spokesperson for the owners of the property. The city's property portal website lists them under the company name Flint 770 Investment LLC. Looking at the property, it's clear the issues did not show up overnight, and no water or heat aren't the only reasons prompting the city to condemn the complex. The city's notice also lists missing shingles on the roof, damaged doors and windows, inoperable plumbing, fire damage, and piles of trash with no dumpsters. So I asked Barkley about those issues and the $884,939 water bill they owe the city, which the mayor's office says they last made a partial payment to in December 2017. Barkley says there isn't an explanation for any of it.
We're just going to have to find someone to make sure that that's taken care of. It just has not been maintained well, the property.
So whose fault is that? Barkley says they hired one person to take that on, who she says they've had some issues with, but ultimately admits it's on the owners.
We're in Florida, and there's a long distance, and it's just not easy to be able to do that and effectively be able to manage the property if the owners are not there to make sure that that the property is being maintained and managed well.
And Barkley adds that they do want someone held criminally responsible for vandalizing the water pipes. She says they planned to file a criminal complaint with the Flint Police Department. I also asked about the other complex that they own, Richfield Court Apartments on the east side of Flint. She says that they also plan to fix those problems and potentially sell that property too. Live in Flint tonight, I'm Ann Perrette, ABC 12 News.
And a reminder that notice from the city means no one can live at the Sunset Village Apartments right now. Another reminder that Flint's mayor did tell us there are a number of agencies that can help struggling tenants. Those are Catholic Charities, the Red Cross, and the Department of Health and Human Services. And once Flint's rental inspection unit is up and running, you can give them a call too. For folks in other parts of our viewing area, you can try MichiganLegalHelp.org. That's a DIY website for people handling legal problems without a lawyer. The State Board of Michigan also offers a lawyer referral service.